There's a couple of other things with regard to tools. If learning and becoming more knowledgeable in your profession increase your income 5 and 10 times over time. It's absolutely astonishing. I used to ask two questions, and I call it the magic wand question. Question number one: if you could wave a magic wand and achieve any one goal in life, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? Imagine you had a magic pill. You could take the pill and whatever goal you could think of and write down, you could have. And almost always people will say a financial goal. Because if they achieve a financial goal, they'll be able to do just everything else that they want.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Brian Tracy Experience. I'm Michael Tracy, your co-host. We are the co-hosts, my brother David Tracy, and of course, the living legend, the Brian Tracy himself. So we have a great episode today, some wonderful talking points. This episode's theme is tools. Tools of thought, physical tools, but what tools did you use, Dad, when you were younger, starting out, that gave you an edge or you felt that were very valuable to you?
Let me just step back. Going back to the origins of man, we find that man is called a tool-making creature. Is what they did is they developed spears and shovels and all kinds of tools. And the whole purpose of a tool is to increase the results that you get from your efforts. So every tool, whether it's a piece of machinery, a military thing, business, is to increase and multiply the results that you can get. So you always think about results. And the whole purpose of a tool is to reduce the number of steps and the amount of time necessary to accomplish something. So let's jump all the way forward. One of the most important tools for today is proper training in your field. I used to joke when I was selling, going for 6 months, I went from door to door, knocking on 60 to 70 doors a day and not making sales. I lost a lot of weight during that period of time, like about 20 pounds. And I used to say this joke is that one of the best weight loss programs in the world is to try to make a living in sales without any training. So at the end of about 6 months, I started to ask top salespeople, what are you doing differently? And they said, well, what books are you reading? What audio programs are you listening to? What seminars have you gone to? I said, well, I don't know anything about these things. And I began to explore it. And I went to the bookstore and I bought my first book on sales, which was called How to Sell Well. And I still remember it because it was like an explosion going off in my brain. It was a man with 30 years experience in sales talking about every phase of getting appointments, developing a rapport, presenting your product, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting resales and referrals. I thought I died and gone to heaven. And I began to listen to audio programs by the top salespeople in the world and began to attend seminars. So that one of the most important tools that you can use to multiply your results and get more and better results faster at a lower cost in time, especially in time and money, is training.
Like picking up a book and reading a book, page by page, and like doing it in a manner there where your kids can see you do it, where other people see you do it, where you're normalizing reading books, because so many people looking at their phones, they're just being distracted, scrolling their feeds, they're checking their email. And this our author in this article, and maybe we can forward it to everyone, was saying that there's something beautiful in savoring the words on a page, and ultimately, like long form reading, big ideas take a long time to develop.
Right. And there's a terrible challenge today is that people are so busy. But here's one of the one-liners is that a person who does not read is no better than a person who cannot read. If you stop reading, what happens is words represent a cluster of meanings. Sometimes one word can introduce you to 10 or 15 other words and help you understand those words. So if you take your brain has 100 billion cells connected to it. If you take your brain and you learn words by reading and thinking about what you just read, it actually activates more and more of your brain, almost like a mental training program. You become mentally fitter and smarter and quicker, and you have better perspective. So just learning words. The average person had been promoted twice. They're earning 40% more. Some people had become heads of their departments. Some had started companies and making more money. I mean, their lives transformed just by learning new words.
They came up with a term called anti-library. And it's sort of this idea that you have all these books, and I haven't read all of these books, I've read most of them, but not all of them. But it's this idea that sort of gives you hope and it inspires you to continue to learn and to continue to read, because you're never going to get through it all. So maybe 20% of the books on my bookshelf I haven't read yet, but it's also like an inspiration to keep going and to keep picking them up. So
one of the things that I used to teach in my speed reading courses, and by the way, I'm just finishing a book called Super Learning, and it shows people how to learn, remember, speed read, a whole lot of things. But one of the things I said is the best way to save 5 hours on a book is to throw it away. The rule is that if you read a book and it doesn't grab you in the first chapter, it's got to grab you right around the throat, so you could hardly wait to get back to the book. I mean, you take it with you. You have it put aside. So, but if you don't have that attraction, that automatic attraction, don't waste any time reading it, because you won't remember a word of it. While you're reading the wrong book, the one that doesn't help you at all, you're not reading the right book. So therefore, the key test, the acid test, is read the first chapter. If it doesn't grab you in the first chapter, chuck it, because it'll never do you any good.
hey, Michael, do you think that there's a big difference between reading a physical book and listening to a book on Audible?
I actually think there's a huge difference. And here's why. I think it's like contextual placement. Like when I'm reading a book, I can intuitively pick it up and open it up to within pages of where I was reading. Whereas like when you're listening to an audiobook, you don't really have the sense of a beginning and an end. And especially with like an ebook where there is no physicality to it, there's no thickness, it's just like a thin, there's like a one page at a time. And I think there's something visceral about being able to hold a book and knowing where you are in it and how much you have left. Maybe I'm old school.
Yeah, but the benefit of Audible, like listening to your books on Audible, Dad, I can speed you up 1.25, 1.5 speed, and then it fills in those gaps where you would normally sort of trail off in your mind and start thinking about something.
Some people like to read, see. Some people like to listen. Some people like to converse and go to seminars and workshops where people interact with each other. And so always do what you are attracted to doing, what you enjoy the most. Whatever you enjoy the most, you will learn the most from. So one more point is that if you want to learn, the key to learning, whether it's audio or book or anything else, is the pauses between the points. So therefore, when you underline a key point, stop, think about it, turn it over in your mind like you're turning over a dish in the store to look at it, and then go on. You cannot speed read anything of value.
You talked about how, Dad, you're a fan of Blink List because somebody just asked a good question about what is your take on 15-minute audiobooks, like those summary sites.
Yes.
I think that they're great to get you interested in the book, but I think if you're interested in the book based on the 15 minutes, you're going to be interested in the whole book too, and you're going to miss the nuance if you do the summary recaps.
Well, fortunately, there's about 3 or 4 companies now that summarize books. They summarize them on audio. They summarize them written. They shorten them up. They give you all the key points. And then if you want to read the whole book, then you can get it. But for example, my favorite right now is called short form, although there are others. But short form, hundreds, thousands of books summarized by very smart people. Then you can get through the equivalent of several hours of reading in 30 minutes. It'll give you all the key points. And if you want more, then you can expand it, read the whole book. There's a couple of other things with regard to tools. If learning and becoming more knowledgeable in your profession can increase your income 5 and 10 times over time, it's absolutely astonishing. When I was, I used to ask 2 questions for my audiences. I call it the magic wand question. Question number 1, if you could wave a magic wand and achieve any one goal in life, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? Imagine you had a magic pill. You could take the pill and whatever goal you could think of and write down, you could have. And almost always people will say a financial goal, because if they achieve a financial goal, they'll be able to do just everything else that they want. So then the second question is, what one skill, if you are absolutely excellent at it, would help you the most to achieve your most important goal? What one skill? Now remember, everything in life is priorities. Some are more important than others. This question changes your life. When I first asked this question, I was struggling as a salesman. Well, if I could earn X number of dollars per month, that would be a fantastic goal. And then the second question is what skill? And the skill was closing the sale. So I decided I would just do a full court press on learning how to close the sale, how to set up the conversation, and then to ask the customer to make a decision. And I became an expert at that. And my income increased. Over the next 2 years, it increased 10 times. And people said, well, whatever you're smoking, you should share it with others because it's really good stuff. And so I began to recruit people and teach them the process of selling plus how to close the sale. My books and audios and videos on closing the sale are some of the most popular in the world, which I was. That you didn't know how to close the sale, you'd be frustrated, you'd be disappointed, you'd make fewer calls. Many of our entrepreneurs, salespeople, they're in business. And there's a basic rule is that all business success comes from high sales. All business failure comes from low sales. And everything else is commentary. So what are the two best sales closing techniques? People always say, well, what are they? What are they? I'll give you the two best. These are rated worldwide. Number one is called the invitational close. And the invitational close is considered to be the best. And it's very simple. You ask a person, do you have any questions or concerns that I haven't answered? And if the prospect says, no, I think you've covered it pretty well, you say, well, then, why don't you give it a try? It's the perfect closing technique. It's low key, no pressure. It's a very friendly way of asking. Now, there's a second close, and it's very similar. When you ask a person, do you have any questions or concerns that I haven't covered yet? And the person says, well, no, I think you've covered everything. You say, well, then the next step is, and you close the sale.
What I found is, I've done like the next step close and the doorknob close and all the closes, but sometimes people are just not ready to buy at that particular moment. And so they say, can you come back, or can you call back, or I'd really like to socialize this with someone else, and so on and so forth. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my career is I would go back and I'd be like, all right, let's seal the deal. Let's finalize the sale. Let's fill out the paperwork. And all the enthusiasm to buy would be gone. And so I learned very quickly that when you do have to go back or you have another meeting, you have to show up with like even a higher level of enthusiasm for your product or service. And you have to almost go through the presentation again and elevate the energy again, and then you can ask for the sale. But if you don't demonstrate that enthusiasm and build up the energy like you did the first time, people are just going to look at you like a financial risk. They're not going to want to buy from you.
Yeah. Do you have advice for, some people consider themselves to be more introverted, and so, they're not very confrontational when it comes to asking for things. So do you think that an introverted sales professional can be just as successful as an extroverted sales professional? And what advice would you give someone who identifies as more introverted?
The key to good selling is to establish a high trust relationship. And the great rule is listening builds trust. So instead of talking, there used to be that they say, well, you're a good talker, you'd be good in sales. No, be a good listener and ask good questions. Two more points. One is that 5% of millionaires in America are salespeople, and another 10% are entrepreneurs. So if you have a combination of an entrepreneur who's good at selling, then the odds are on your behalf that you're going to be very successful in life financially if you learn the tools of good selling. Never stop studying.
Entrepreneurs have to sell to three different constituents. They have to sell to an investor. They have to sell to early stage employee, right, who has a bunch of different opportunities, and they have to sacrifice in the short term for the placement at a startup. And then they have to go out and find customers for their product or service.
Now, the theme of today is productivity, is actually tools. My most popular book is Eat That Frog, and it's now in 55 languages, and it sold millions and millions of copies. It's been rewritten 3 times, and the new version is out. Time management, personal management is one of the most important tools that you can use to be highly effective. You find that the 80-20 rule, unfortunately, is true, is that 20% of people, the ones who are most productive, the ones who use their time the best, earn 80% of the money. 80% of people earn 20% of the money, is to decide to be in the top 20%. So make a decision. You're going to be very effective, efficient, productive, use your time well, establish priorities, start on your most important task, discipline yourself to complete your most important task before you do anything else, and get into the rhythm of being highly productive. And that will do more to increase your financial situation, to improve it, than almost anything else you can do.
I was going to say, when you started in the door-to-door game, did you track all of your contacts? Did you write down like how many people you spoke to versus how many appointments you got? And with the appointments you got, how many people signed?
And then over time, it's, you knocked on 75 doors to get one, and then you start on 50 to get one, and then 25 to get one, and so on and so forth. And, as you get better, your ratio gets better. So tracking that was probably one of the more encouraging metrics.
That was very helpful from Dad, because if you have no idea how many people you're talking to, then you have no idea how many more people you need to talk to get a sale. And in the beginning with real estate, I talked to 435 people before I got a contract signed. I apply skill or not. I just, like you said, it's a numbers game. So
Yeah.
if you're not tracking your contacts, start tracking your contacts.
Some pretty good ways to double your income. I say the average professional salesperson, according to research, makes 2 new calls per day. So if you are average, which is what you would be, then if you want to double your income, then you must make 4 new calls in a day. So you could track at the end of the day how many calls you make. But because of the law of probabilities, if you double the number of potential customers you call on, you will double your sales. You don't know where the sale will come from, but you will double your sales. This is the reason why people succeed, is because they give it a try with no guarantee of success. The reason they fail is they think of all the reasons why it won't work, and they just don't do anything. When I took an MBA at the university, one of the courses you had to take was called probability theory. And probability theory was a full semester course, and it was based on differential calculus. But basically what it says is that there is a probability that everything can happen. And sometimes the probabilities are high, sometimes they're low. But the thing is that you can influence the probabilities. So there's a probability that you will make a sale when you call on a prospect. Because of probabilities, you can literally control your life. And the key is increase the frequency of a particular activity if you want to increase the results of that activity, which sounds so simple, but it's absolutely true. Just call from 2 people, call on 4. From 4 people, call on 6. From 6, call on 8. That's 1 per hour. If you just keep making call after call, you get better and better. It takes less and less time to be successful.
One of the benefits of what you're saying too, Dad, is that you generate momentum and you build habits. And some of the people that you first called on a week or 2 ago start calling you back. I think that's the part that people forget. If you keep at it every day, you never know where the next sale is going to come from. You might talk to 100 new people, but the person you spoke to 2 weeks ago decided they finally want you to come over and take a look, give them an evaluation. So the momentum part and the habits part, that comes from it.
Well, what you do is you play a head game with yourself and say, imagine that everybody I call on is on the verge of buying from me or from my competitor. And so you treat them like they're on the verge of buying. You treat them with respect, and you treat them with enthusiasm and confidence and things like that. But you speak to as many people, we say, get face to face with as many people as possible. And the rule, some will, some won't. So what? Next.
I'm curious, on the topic of tools, how would you lump in something like scripts? So in real estate, you do a lot of role playing and you study a lot of scripts, and a lot of it is just sort of a series of questions designed to suss out motivation and qualification of the prospect. But do you recommend people develop scripts, follow scripts, or?
Here's an interesting point. They had the director, Steven Spielberg, on television earlier this week, and he was giving it's actually on YouTube, he was giving what he considered the best actors he'd worked with in an entire career. And he showed each one of them, showed them acting, and he described them and so on. And the one thing he said about every one of them is that these people always came on time. They were always fully rested. They were always well prepared. They had reviewed their scripts and they were ready to work. He said, but the very best people prepare thoroughly every single time. And they prepare. One of the most important tools of all, like I change subjects, is time management, productivity. You get paid for the results that you get. And your results are determined by the way that you use your time.
What I've noticed about scripts is that I think they're actually incredibly valuable. I think, especially if you're starting out, you need to memorize the script. Yeah, like you were saying, Anthony Hopkins, read it 100 times, like internalize it so that it becomes kind of like this, like something you can default to in the heat of whatever emotional battle you're fighting. And then as you get more seasoned and skilled, then you can start innovating on the script what are the tools of success that you grab before you head out for battle?
Well, I always say, write it down, write it down, write it down. If you want to double your income, there's a very simple way to do it that I've taught it all over the world, is take a spiral notebook and every morning get up and write down your 10 most important goals without looking back. And you set up the law of attraction and you begin to attract into your life people, ideas, opportunities to achieve the goals. But if they are not in writing, then they don't exist. They're merely, as I say, cigarette smoke in a large room. They just drift away. Now, the second point is priorities. Is successful people work on their most important task until it's complete. So the critical thing is for you to make a list every day and then I'll go over the list and say, if I could only accomplish one thing on this list, which one task will have the greatest positive impact on my life? Put a circle around it and start with that and work only on that task until it's complete. If you can do that, the first time it's very hard. My point is the tools that are the most powerful are also the most simple. They're the easiest to use, but they require the big D, which is discipline. And discipline means you've got to write them down, discipline yourself, force yourself to start and complete your most important task first thing every morning. If you do just that, you'll double your income very quickly.
Dad, what's the best advice you can give yourselves to build a lasting relationship?
Well, the most important thing in a relationship, as I said, is trust. And trust comes from not talking, but asking questions and listening, nodding, smiling, listening. So the key to friendly relationships is to ask questions. People ask me, why am I so successful as a speaker? And the answer is, well, I ask them questions. What was the very best vacation you ever had in your life? Pause, stop, and let people think about it. And then they'll travel their whole life.
You talked about previously quiet contemplation. Is there something else that you do in the
Well,
spiritual realm?
what I did for most of my life is I would read an hour in a spiritual book every morning, 7 days a week. I have several hundred books on different aspects of spirituality. I'm not fixated on any one religion, but I really very much believe in the power of spiritual thought, power of prayer, power of contemplation, meditation. So reading in spiritual material is very healthy for you, and it makes you better in every part of your life. So that's been very good, very important to me. But I have several hundred books on spirituality, all of which I read from cover to cover, and some of them several times. So it's very helpful. It's sort of like a really powerful mental health tool to read in spiritual material. It makes you better. Reading motivational material is very helpful. It makes you more positive, more optimistic, more determined. You have more persistence. You're a nicer person. You are more influential with others, and so on.
Hey, Lanny.
Hey,
Are we meeting here?
Please tell us what you were telling us before we started.
as far as I'm concerned, there's a seismic shift in the universe of AI that's going to affect everybody. So I think it's valuable to leave it on. If you guys are okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead.
You know, there's been a lot of advancements that's come with AI, and sometimes stuff happens where it's like, if we have this powerful tool that is probably going to be the most powerful tool that's ever been created in our lifetimes. Basically, there's levels to AI. I'm going to go just quick high level of like, and I was talking to David about this just a little bit ago. At AI's lowest level, you have chat. You know, people are basically interacting with a cloud, a chat GPT, one of the tools, and they're chatting, right? And it's useful and it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. I don't want to minimize it, but it's the lowest level use of AI. And the reality is, if you've been playing around with this, chat is its lowest level. When you go up a level from chat, you get into apps, custom apps, or custom GPTs. And what changes when you add in the applications is you add in a knowledge base and you add in instructions. What it does is it basically is honing in what you're trying to get as far as an output two ways. One is the knowledge base. AI is basically grabbing the information from the entire world, right? And let's face it, I've been on the chat here for a little bit. Not all of it is great. Some of it's amazing, but we've seen some stuff on the chat where it's like, nah, that's not amazing. No offense to those either chatting not amazing stuff, but it's in there. It's in the AI. It's in the knowledge base. what custom GPTs or custom apps allow you to do is narrow in the knowledge base, so it's operating from a more specific set of knowledge, so it's going to get a better output. It's a garbage in, garbage out thing. The instructions allow you to create a specific outcome that's really powerful. So up a level from that are agents. And then agents are basically programmed things that have a knowledge base, they have instructions. But then what we add into agent layer is we add systems, whether it's Gmail, a customer relationship management system, or, social media, LinkedIn is a system. All these systems, we can actually create agents that can automate tasks. And then at its highest level, it's an agent swarm. Okay, it's a swarm of agents that work together to accomplish complex tasks. So it's basically a group of these that all have a knowledge base and instructions working in concert, almost like a symphony, creating this beautiful music, which is results. So I played around while you guys were talking. Well, let me ask a question. If I was going to create a sales script of a long form sales letter and a full song, how long do you think that would take? And do all the research on a topic to do all those things, how long do you think that would take? And I'm curious.
Just to handwrite a sales script, I mean, and to do it well and actually to iterate, I mean, at least a day. I would say like at least 6 to 8 hours to do it right. If I was going to handwrite it.
Okay, cool. Well, I happen to do it. Can I share a workflow? Because I just was playing around while you guys are talking. I was like, oh, this is a good topic. Let me turn it into a couple of tools. So can I just walk you through a couple of things? And then, all right. So what I did was, you guys were talking about closing sales. So what I did was, let me go back to YouTube. I basically searched closing sales Brian Tracy, because I was like, I need some information. I need some data. I want to create a sales script real quick. So I wanted some content. And of course, if I'm going to grab content, I'm going to grab Brian's. I did this search of closing sales Brian Tracy. Then I went to over 20 minutes because I wanted more, not less. And then I found this video, which I've actually seen before, to be honest. It's awesome. And I clicked on it.
I'm coming so far and making such a sacrifice.
And then let me grab the URL. So what I did is I don't want to watch it right now. I just wanted all the information from it. So I went ahead and I opened up on Notebook LM, which is an incredible tool, and it's free. I went ahead and added it as a source. So I'll show you how to do that really quick. It's really easy. So I just let me go here. I just went add, and then I went YouTube, and I pasted it in, and I hit insert. And then what it did was it gave me the transcript of the whole thing. So here's the transcript of the whole video right here. And I took that transcript and I went and created a Google Drive or a Google folder out of it. So I went and copy and pasted it into this folder. I copy and pasted it into this document, and I just called it Brian Tracy on sales. Okay. And what I did from there is I now went into the new mode. Now this is where everything changed on Thursday. ChatGPT unveiled what they call agent mode. If you go to your tools, I turned the agent off. So you got this new thing called agent mode. And what I did was I said, I'll just say it out loud. I want you to take a file from my Google Drive, and then I copy and paste the file name. Now you don't have to do this because it's actually smart enough that it can integrate with your Google Drive. And the name of the file is this, Brian Tracy Sales. I want you to create a sales script for my product, which is called Business Breakthrough AI. The folder or the file name in my Google Drive for Business Breakthrough for AI is, grab my little file name for my knowledge base on my product. I bring it in here, and I'm going to just go like that. And what it has the ability to do now is activate agents. Okay. But I could have it do research. And then what happens is I go ahead and hit the up arrow, and I'm activating agent. And when I hit the up arrow in the agent, what's going to happen is it's actually opening a computer that exists on ChatGPT's server. So what it's doing is it's setting up a desktop right now, and we're going to see it work here in a minute. And what it's going to do is it's actually setting up a computer remote from my system. Now, if I wanted to, I could leave right now, and I could go like play pickleball or go eat lunch or whatever. It's now working, and it's not just one agent, and it's opening spreadsheets. It's now going into my Google Drive. It's finding the documents, and it's now doing all of the work. And This tool is unbelievable. It can go out and look at websites. It can do deep research. It can do all of these tasks, all from the prompt layer. And why this is so powerful is because activating agent swarms before Thursday took programming. Like, as much as there's tools out there that make this somewhat easy to do or not as hard, none of this was accessible to the average person who wasn't very technically savvy. But now anybody and everybody can go access an agent swarm and have it do really amazing things. One of the other things that I did a couple days is I said, okay, I want you to look in my calendar, look in my email, look at everything I got, use Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog methodology, give me time block my entire day for the next week and tell me what the frog is that I need to eat each morning. So what it did was it just created the script, sales script for Business Breakthrough AI. And then what I did is I went and created another step, and I'm going fast because I wanted to show you something really cool. I went and did another step, and I said, I want you to take the documents that I have in my Google Drive about creating a video sales letter, and I want you to go create a video sales letter for this product. And now I have this document, and now I'm not telling it what the file is that is the file that I want it to. I don't have to. It actually will go find it, which is amazing. So you don't have to know the names of your files. You can actually just say, I have stuff in there that's useful. Go find it. And then I was like playing around. I was like, well, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to create a song. So I created a song for Brian Tracy and his people based on this topic. And I was cracking up because I was like, the ability to do these things, really what AI is all about is leverage and leverage of time and getting a lot done in a little bit of time. I took the 80 hours of content that we have in our AI training, and I said, okay, I want you to take this 80, and it's all transcribed in this huge file. I said, I want you to take this 80 hours of content, and I want you to turn it into 300 1 to 2 minute video segments, 300. And I checked in a couple hours later, and I said, where are you at? What's the process? And it said, oh, I've already done the analysis of your drive or of your document. I'm now working on the scripts, and right now I've gotten about 25 of them done. Here's a couple that I've gotten, so you can check it out. And it said, do you want me to make any changes? How are these scripts looking to you? And I was like, they look great. About 5 hours later, done. I went and played pickleball. I went and picked up my fiance at the airport, and then I came back and I had 300 video scripts done, which is crazy to me.
Incredibly valuable. I think agents are definitely a game changer, and if people don't know how to use them, and I'm still learning, Lanny, and you've been on the bleeding edge of this for as long as I've known you. So if your competitor's using agents and you're not, then you're in trouble.
Well, the thing that makes it so powerful, Michael, is your dad. Like all the tools, most of the tools that we have your dad's life work as the brain of that tool. And it's the knowledge base that drives the result. So instead of like the old school ways, you watch a video, you fill out a workbook, and you like start working. And what we've done is we've short circuited that process of saying, no, here's Brian's stuff, and we're going to do the work for you. Like, done. We skip the learning phase and we get right to the doing phase.
All right. Well, thank you, Lanny. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was cool. I mean, it was really cool to be able to share this with Brian's larger audience on all these different platforms.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, David. Bye, Lanny. Bye, Dad.